not been, and things still remain the same. And I don't wanna pay. So you see that this is
Keep the red flag flying here.
Hello and welcome to Socialist Night Live. We have a pretty special show for you tonight. Tonight we have our usual team of James and Laura, but we've also got Lauren. Let's do Lauren first, and then we'll do brief introductions of the other two when we're in there. Hi Lauren, how are you doing?
Hiya, I'm very well, thank you. I'm glad that you've invited me.
And can you tell people a little bit about yourself? Because you've got an Origins next week, haven't you? So you're on the Origins show, and we're really looking forward to that one. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hiya, so my name's Lauren, and I got to know Paul and Laura and James when I was in the Labour Party. Before that I was in the Green Party, and now I'm living in Hartlepool, but I'm originally from Barnsley, and I co-host a Last Cast podcast, which is a collective of women, non-binary people from the north putting on a podcast about politics and feminism. So I'm just trying to improve my confidence on live video and stuff like that, because it scares me less. I hope I can swear, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can swear. We often do.
Nice, yeah. So, yeah, glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you're you're tremendously welcome. Can I ask at the moment as well if you would leave a little comment in the chat? That would be absolutely brilliant. Don't forget to like the video and share it. That really, really, really helps with the algorithm. So please do that. I am terrible at doing these little things, so you have to do it now because I just tried my hardest. James.
Hi, so as everybody will know, James Summerall, he's in CLP for social media and IT. I'm co-founder of Socialist think tank, and I run East Durham Make a Difference.
Brilliant. And Laura?
Nice and succinct there, James. So get me list out. Laura Daly, co-founder of Socialist think tank, founder of the Women's Banner Group, CLP secretary for Sedgefield CLP, loads of other things. Love being here. This is my most fun thing to do. Even though I always worry that I'll say something wrong. Penny has joined me early tonight. She's not here at the end of the show. She's here now. So if you hear any weird grunty noises, it's her, not me.
It could easily be me, and I largely identify as Laura's husband, so that's me. You always know. And Penny's already getting comments about your guest in the background. I think it was from her wavy tail there. So, firstly, I don't know if I know that James and Laura watches. I don't know if you saw it, Lauren, but we've just had an interview that went out on Origins with John Dunn. Absolutely brilliant. So, did you manage to watch that one, Lauren?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Well,
sorry.
I will. No, that's okay. That's absolutely fine. Laura, James, what did you think?
Brilliant show, as absolutely usual, John. An absolute staunch advocate and activist. It's somebody to be proud of and a video to watch. And if you want to watch it on demand, it seems though you missed it tonight, go to socialistthinktank.com. I'll be up there tomorrow, or just visit the YouTube channel, or watch the video on Facebook if you're still there.
Yeah, Laura, what did you think?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I've seen John speak a ton of times, so I know he's amazing. But I find his conclusions to situations really beautiful and quite poetic, and all this stuff that comes out of just some of the worst circumstances he's been through. I really particularly liked sort of towards the beginning where he was talking about the miners' strike and people having time and space to find out what they're good at, and that he found that loads of the miners were really creative, and there were poets and artists and entertainers, and I just found that really lovely. And he said something, I mean, I don't know the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, we need to all be pulled out of the drudgery of work to find our creative spirit. And I just thought that was so true, because at the minute, most working class people are just trying to get through the day and make ends meet, and don't get the opportunity to see what they could become, or what they're brilliant at. And I know working class people are just brilliant at so many things. It's just shit that we don't get the same opportunities as rich people. And I thought he was brilliant.
It's interesting as well, because what he spoke about, a lot of the time people think socialism and they think of like the drudgery of the state capitalism of the USSR under Stalin, and they think it's going to be this awful work drudgery. But what comes up time and again in the Origins interviews is actually, no, it's not that. It's not restrictions, it's creativity. And this came up in your Origins interview, Lauren. You were talking about how, you know, it's freedom, really. Socialism's much more about freedom, and we're often told the opposite. So, we'll not give too much away that one, Lauren, but it'd be nice to hear your comments on that one. And also, haven't you got some special news?
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I'll come back on that first. So for me, socialism, once people's basic needs are met, then, you know, we've got this potential that so many people, I suppose so many people are just trying to survive, like you said. And that's a full-time job. Being poor is a full-time job, you know, on top of everything else that people have to do. You know, it takes so much effort to like bring up a family if you haven't got the resources to do it in a way that is like comfortable and dignified. And you know, there's so much wealth in the world and in this country, it's just not distributed fairly at all. And, you know, if people didn't have to worry about the basic necessities, imagine what interest they could pursue. Imagine how much time they could put into raising their family or doing their art, or, you know, educating themselves, educating each other, skill sharing, you know, making the community beautiful. I just think it's such a waste of human life. It's such a waste of the Earth's resources. It's such a waste of, you know, our precious like time to squander it all, like trying to generate profit for people who already have millions and millions and millions in a bank account. And I think socialism for me is about us realising our potential.
Absolutely agree with you there. Really nice to see so many people in the chat tonight, and I'm going to come back to your news in a second. So I'm going to go in reverse order. Hello, Jake. Absolutely brilliant. Really nice comment. For him, socialism is about creating a world that works for everyone. Is that really such a bad thing? Absolutely not. Jane Strange, poverty is toxic. I'm going to come back to that one as well. Leanne Powell, 4-day week, release the creativity. Nice to see Mark on. Nice to see Craig on. Leanne, Ray, I'm not cutting my hair. If you keep going on about it, I will cut it if you stop. I'll do it for charity. I'll shave my head off for charity. Not my head, not my entire head.
No.
Yes,
Not like some sort of awful Monty Python cartoon, but I'll look good with a bald head. But anyway, so yeah, we'll do that at some point. But yeah, Ray, I'm not cutting my hair yet. But everyone's loving John Dunn as well, which is absolutely brilliant. And Lauren is an inspiration from Charlotte Austin. Absolutely true. Completely true. So, back onto the poverty is toxic. I just remember like when me and Laura lived in a smaller house. So we lived in a smaller house for a long time in order to try and save up as a false economy for a bigger house. I ended up losing money on the house and everything. And you know, but when we had more space, And when we didn't have neighbours on top of each other, and when we didn't feel restricted, and we didn't spend as much, we were just in the house more because it was a nicer environment. And it is like that. And you can imagine, like, you know, with when people have wealth, when people have capital, and they don't have to spend money on mortgages, so they're not losing that money on interest that the rest of us spend. And, you know, overall, they end up spending less money than us. So, like, having money is a way of not having to spend money as well. And I've seen that in my own little way, going from a tiny little pokey place where, you know, we didn't have room to swing a penny round, and then moving to a place where we've got space and we're much more comfortable and happier. We wouldn't be able to live the lifestyle we do now. We wouldn't be able to be supportive of one another, and we certainly wouldn't be able to do, like, Socialist think tank wouldn't be able to do all the other things that we do, because you were just busy trying to get by, you know. And that was both of us in decent jobs, really, in a small pokey place. It does make a lot of difference having a bit of space and those things that, like, you know, people in poverty will not have. And they won't get out of poverty for that reason, not because they're smoking loads of tabs, which is the popular narrative.
Or buying iPhones, or, you know, the necessities of a modern existence in a first world country, you know. And I would completely agree with that, Paul. And, like, until I was earning a particular amount of money on my salary, I was literally, I wouldn't have had time to come and do Socialist think tank. I wouldn't have had the time to do the little projects that I do with, like, make a difference and stuff. There's no chance. And I don't own I don't own a home. I don't have a mortgage. But I had to get to a particular threshold before I was even able to do the daily basics, to be able to have that free time to do other things and help out where I can in the community, you know. So yeah. I think that poverty is the biggest restraint of all.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good comments. Please comment to each other as well. They're up on the screen. Really positive things there. So, Lauren, what's your news? We've been waiting for so long.
Oh, are you ready? I'm going to take my mask off now. I know this is about Northern Independence Party. You know, I left Labour a few months ago. Can you see where this is going?
Oh,
I'm joined.
You've joined the Northern Independence Party.
So you are the representative after all.
It's me. No, wait, this happened by accident. Yeah, I joined. The curiosity got the better of me. I'm one of them now. Please don't hate me.
Oh, you're gonna hate me by the end of the night.
You'll never be hated. You'll never be hated by me. But we are going to probably take a little bit of a slightly more critical position than. So we've seen, like, other socialist social media, very, very doing fluff pieces on them almost. Like, so we've seen Navarra do a very, very easy bit of journalism on them. We've seen Socialist Telly give them a pretty highly uncritical thing. I'm not going to not criticise, and I'll come to it in a little bit more. However, I don't totally reject everything that they're trying to do, and I can understand where it's coming from. But there will be, I think, a touch of criticism in there. So it's really good to have balance. The first bit of criticism is we did ask someone as a representative of the party to come on, and they didn't get back to us. And then lots of people asked them on our behalf, and they didn't get back to us. So
and Horace just turned up and went, "Oh, by the way."
But that's okay. So we end up having a really fair representation. So we're accidentally fair by just having awesome people. So, right, I am going to now introduce this piece with Ray's gutted about that. You know, Ray's gutted about that, Lauren. He thinks you're great, but he's gutted because he's from the south. He's a southern socialist. What about the Southern Socialists? That's what people worry about. Okay, so I'm going to read a little piece now. A year ago, Keir Starmer was elected as Labour Party leader. Despite standing on what appeared to be a left-wing platform with his 10 pledges, in practice it appears that he has lurched to the right. He has also suspended the former Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn and appears to have taken supportive positions of government policy despite a disastrous pandemic response, both in terms of humanity and economically. After starting off with relatively positive personal ratings, Starmer has slumped in popularity with blunders over Black Lives Matter, picking and choosing which MPs are sacked and which can just apologise based upon their faction, and in the past couple of days, offending Gypsy Roma traveller people and visiting a church which famously supports gay conversion therapy. 6 months ago, the Northern Independence Party was set up in an attempt to fill the missing ground to the left of every political party on an unashamed democratic socialist platform, but also on a promise to create an independent Northumbria. Their recent popularity has surged, and their good-humoured social media game, along with standing a candidate, former Labour MP Thelma Walker, in the Hartlepool by-election, after a Labour appear to have given members no choice in who their parliamentary candidate is. We ask whether their stance on nationalism is necessary or if it distracts from a class struggle. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Does the Northern Independence Party and the independent Northumbria distract from a class struggle argument? Because we've got lots of people in the country who will not benefit from a free North. And I'm not 100% sure whether that's their goal and whether it's a bit of a slippery slope. But anyway, as someone who joined the Northern Independence Party, Lauren, you go for it. You tell us why. Let's have a positive vision. Then we'll bring in James and then we'll bring in Laura, because I think James has got a negative feeling about it. And we'll see where we go. So, Lauren.
Okay. So, just to clarify, I'm not the representative. I'm just literally joined. So, I'm just, gathering information. And I welcome criticality because I've not been fully nip-pilled yet. So, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I've looked on their website, on their policies, and they say that they are an unashamedly working class party. And so they centre class politics and class struggle and socialism in their founding principles, I suppose, which I don't think you can really say for Labour anymore at all, especially under Starmer, because Starmer's leadership campaign had loads and loads and loads of money behind it that came from the likes of the ex-ASOS chair, and I mean they're one of the worst employers in Yorkshire, ASOS, and they had this massive, these massive amounts of money, and he's part of the Trilateral Commission, which was set up by Rockefeller, and its aim is to spread global capitalism as a means for developing other countries, which at this stage in the climate crisis is basically a blood cult, if you ask me. So I do think we need this push and this kick up Labour's ass from the left. I really, truly do. And I welcome, anyone that's going to stand on a platform and stick up for the North, because we've been held back systematically for so many years now. And I think while, I've been in the Green Party in 2015 because Labour wasn't anti-austerity at that time, I've stuck by my principles, and I know that there's so many really hardworking and amazing activists in Labour, but for me, I need to be in a party that is shouting, socialism from the rooftops. And if Labour are going to be flitting backwards and forwards, then so am I.
Okay, I think that's definitely valid, isn't it? I think a lot of us feeling particularly uncomfortable with the direction of the Labour Party, as I said in my opening speech as well. It's what is the Labour Party for? What is the Labour Party supposed to be for? And I think there's a lot of people who are really disgruntled with the Labour Party who've finally seen something enthusiastic to go for. But James, what do you reckon?
I'd just like to pre-context this with I'm also not very happy with the current state of the Labour Party. I didn't vote for Starmer. I think that anybody who voted for him just got tricked by the narrative at the time, all of these policies, all these pledges. He was speaking the left-wing language, but obviously that's just electoralism. And I seen through it, but obviously a lot of the Labour Party never. And I have no misgivings to people who left the Labour Party and joined others as a way to act as either a pressure group, or if they didn't feel like their values aligned with the current leadership and stuff like that. I completely understand. In my defense, I would actually just say the only reason I've stayed is because I've had a really good MP and I had a really good left-wing MP, and also the fact that I take a lot of encouragement and inspiration from previous members such as Jeremy Corbyn and those who came before me, sat and stuck it out throughout the whole of the way because they believed that it was the only vehicle to be elected to then change policies for the overall working class. And I believe in that also. So I just want to pretext that. The only thing I see about the Northern Independence Party at the moment is it's the same game in a way as what I said at first in terms of electoralism. It's a whole game of campaigning to then try and push it online with clips and snappy tweets and stuff like that. So it can gain traction. You need that media game, right? But from my investigation pieces at the moment now, going into just random comments that are getting sent back, looking at the pledges, what they've made, that type of thing, I really want to know, what do they class as independence for the North? Is it true independence or separation? And they want, from my understanding, they want to form Northumbria, right? Northumberland, sorry. So that's what they want to form. But then in the same breath, I'm hearing on Twitter by both members and the by-election MP that is not the actual goal. The actual goal is just to give more power to the North, not actual independence. So to me, it's feeling this. All it feels like is they want to give Labour a bloody nose. There's not an actual reason. The things that they're selling, i.e. their pledges, really doesn't feel like the actual goal in the end. And the actual goal in the end, I just really think it's to give Labour Party a bloody nose. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I'm all for giving Starmer a bloody nose, but I'm not all for giving the literally like 50 or so thousand members that have stayed from the left wing after Jeremy Corbyn left, and to try and fight from within and gain the positions to then change the party. It's not going to change over one election or two elections. It's literally going to take like decades to get full control if it's worked out properly. And I'm just trying to play the long game personally, whether or not, and I have no misgivings to people who have left the party or being kicked out of the party and then seeing that as a reason to join another party in a way as like a pressure group also. Like, I think that's very valid. I think we really need pressure groups outside of the Labour Party to influence the Labour Party. So there's that. Second to that, it would be at the moment, the by-election will just behave exactly the same as the Brexit Party did, where it'll majority split down Labour votes in favour of Tories. And I can just see that on the statistical basis, because that's where really I lie. I'm all down in the statistics of everything. And that's the way I see it happening. They're just going to split the Labour vote again, and then it'll just be another walkthrough for a Conservative candidate. We were, as Labour, we were quite lucky to hold Hartlepool last time, in my opinion, just due to the video and the investigation piece, what got released about racism and stuff. I genuinely thought that swayed it. But yeah, I'll just leave it on that. It's just a few points. It's nothing coherent or anything like that. I'm just feeling a lot of slyness about it, is the best way to describe it. The riding on the wave of the social media campaign, essentially.
I think like there's two things here. There's two things here that are going on. Obviously, like it's a bit of a shame that they can't be seen without the context of Labour. But obviously, Labour's move to the right has inspired a creation of someone who's like, no, we're democratic socialists. And also, Labour kicking a load of people out has meant they've got nowhere to go. Now, one of the things I've been slightly gutted about is, like, if you've joined another political party or stand for another political party, those people who I think are my comrades who share so many beliefs with me, that might be it, within the Labour Party, because we're still trying to work within the Labour Party to have proper socialist in the Labour Party. I don't criticise anyone for saying actually that's not for me anymore. That is absolutely fine. I just kind of think, we're trying to do this, but I don't think Westminster's the answer anyway. But I'm kind of interested in splitting it out between Labour and the Northern Independence Party. I'm going to come on to the stance on Northumbria. It is Northumbria they want to create,
Right,
apparently,
okay,
or whether they do or don't. That'll be interesting to see whether they do or don't. I'm also going to mention a few...
Sorry, Paul. If I'm not mistaken, the manifesto did say that they will put that as a referendum to the people, and that referendums will become the more prominent way to decide the direction of the country rather than manifestos.
Referendums always work out well.
So
a few comments. Paul Smith saying, I think he means Lauren has every right to join the Northern Independence Party if the Labour Party are not delivering. Now, also another thing, the acronym, the NIP, a few Japanese people have complained about that already. So they might be become Northip or something like that. I know it sounds a little bit funny, but actually people have started to complain. And another couple of comments here. We've got I want a Northern Independence Party person on there. Zero Piraeus, I guess. So he's saying a democratic citizens' assembly will write our constitution, and the Northern Independence Party will advocate a federal structure with as much local control as possible. I think there's a lot. There's a lot of positives to be thought about that, and we have to give them a bit of a break here. They are brand new. They are Lauren's frozen for a second. Let's hope she comes back. Another Mia's saying that Mary Foy has been a big part of why she's staying. Oh, there you're back. That's brilliant. And Jane Strange pointing out that there's some really good Labour MPs. Craig Farlow mentioned they don't have a policy on monetary independence. And then there's an argument about definitions. Cat Craze mentioning the TUSC. So it's and then Lloyd Tudor there. It's all a long-term goal. Nobody expects this to happen overnight. I think that's fair because they are brand. No one expects them to be fully formed in the space of 5 or 6 months. Laura, I want to ask you about how you feel about the idea of where Labour comes into this, because I know that you know a lot about what's been happening in the Labour Party for the last few months, and how do you feel about the Labour Party at the minute creating space for this kind of movement? And also in the context of Lauren and I knocked doors together in Hartlepool for an MP who turned out to have done something allegedly that neither of us would have knocked a door for him on his behalf for, if that is true. And also, Northern Independence Party, if you've got a member like Lauren, you need to get in touch with us straight away and say, right, we're going to put you in places. We're going to take you places because Lauren is really, really good. But anyway, Laura.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think... So it's a shame that the Northern Independence Party have to always be in conversation about the Labour Party, but I think the Northern Independence Party is a result of the failings of the Labour Party. Much like Lauren, I've felt absolutely desolate about the direction of the party at the minute. I'm still here. And I get really upset with the people who say you have to stay and fight. Because, that's all well and good. I love the idea of staying and fighting. That's brilliant. But people are just saying that, and it's just rolling off people's tongues. You've got to be in it. You've got to fight. You've got to stay. But nobody's coming up with any plans as to what exactly we do. And then anybody who does try and do something, it just ends up being a lot of meetings and nothing gets done. Also, I think we need to be a bit honest with ourselves here and just think really realistically about what power we hold as members within the Labour Party at the minute. we don't have any. Our rules are so vague that they can twist them to kick you out and not tell you why. And they've done that with thousands of members up and down the country. It's unacceptable. But now we're not allowed to talk about it because, there's a rule that says first rule of Labour Party is you are not allowed to talk about the Labour Party. So what do we do then? Where do we go? Where do we vent these frustrations? I can absolutely see why this party has got legs and why people would think, okay, well, they're working class. They're going to speak for me. I can definitely see the draw there. Just because the Labour Party's been going for donkey's years doesn't mean that it's a perfect product. It's definitely not. It's been my version of perfect for a Westminster Parliamentary Party. Unfortunately, Paul, I think you're absolutely right. I do feel like the country needs some kind of revolution, and that the parliamentary system itself is the problem. It's not working for us. Clearly, the people who get into power, as we've seen for the past God knows how many years, are people who are going to look after the rich and look after the wealthy business owners and the wealthy media. They are the people who hold all the power. And when they get there, they don't care about us. They just don't. And they've proven that. And especially in the Northeast, we've been left so far behind in any policy decisions for decades. So, yeah, I can see the draw. I really can. That said, it is a very new party. I think it needs to find its feet. I don't know what its end goal is. If it is a pressure group, then good on them, because I think they're going to end up doing that. They're going to put pressure on. But at the minute, they've got 3.5 years to really do something, because at the minute, as it stands, like James said, it is going to be another tool to split the left. We still have a lot of very dedicated members in the Labour Party who are thinking, I lasted through Tony Blair, I'll last through this as well. Fight the good fight and all that. We've got thousands of members who are going to continue that fight. So I'm not really landing on either side here. I'm a Labour Party member. I can't deny I have considered that position quite a lot recently. But I'm not necessarily against the idea of a new party. I just don't know. I think it's going to take a few years to see where it'll go. Yeah, and it's difficult. It's really difficult. Working class people do need more say in what happens. It'd be lovely if the Labour Party could go back to doing that. That'd be ideal, and then we'd all be happy. But again, we'll see. We've got to keep the pressure up. We've got to keep calling it out as well. I'm sick to death of people saying, well, you can't criticise Keir Starmer because he's our leader. These are the same people who dragged Jeremy Corbyn across the coals. We have to. I'm all for criticising people within your own spaces. So within the Labour Party meetings, that's where we should be doing it. But unfortunately, we're not having Labour Party meetings. And when we do, we're not allowed to talk about it. So where do we go? What do we do? It's all really complicated. And it's all for people who are really, really passionate about making a difference in this country. The whole thing is really difficult, and it tears you into pieces, and you don't know what to do for the best. So you've just got to go where your heart lies, I guess, and try your best.
I'm going to bring in like a little thing. There's a few comments that have been really good, and I'm going to bring in a couple of them as a sort of like two sides of a coin here. So one of them is who was it? I had it. Right, I'll go up here. It was Lloyd Tudor, and he was saying, I for a short while was totally disillusioned with electoral politics, but the Northern Independence Party have offered something I can get on board with. And then we also had another comment, Michael Pope. Northern Independence Party is engaging a lot of young people through a social media campaign that have never taken an interest in politics. Now, the reason I think this is two sides of a coin here is because people were disengaged and then they've been brought back into the idea of electoral politics. Now, personally, I'm starting to feel like Westminster will never bring about the change that we need it will never, ever, ever bring about the change that we need. So would I rather that we all have a new political party that we can go, yay, this is fun and it's something to entertain us, because they are incredibly entertaining. It's brilliant. It's a breath of fresh air to see them having no fear, going out and just saying, oh, like, you know, because people in the Labour Party walk on eggshells all the time, because if you say the wrong thing, you'll have a right winger writing a complaint about you, and then you're gone, and then you're branded as being this awful person. But that's a real positive. So it's lovely to see enthusiasm in that. But is the enthusiasm being directed in the wrong place? Will we ever come out of the Westminster system? Because I think, like, people have been working within the Labour Party, and the establishment within the Labour Party just went crushed that. Now, that's before you even get to Westminster, where they'll crush you again. Now, is Westminster something that we should be focusing on as the left, or should we be looking outside and engaging this like enthusiasm outside of that? So, Lauren, what do you think?
Yeah, so I can completely understand that point, because I've been made to be quite disillusioned with politics, having come out of the Greens and seeing how hard it is, you know, for a fringe party. I was really young and idealistic, but it's really hard to get anywhere near, you know, power as a fringe party. And then all those hours, you know, it's a lot of work setting up a branch of a political party, never mind setting up an entirely new political party. That's a lot of hours of, you know, activist time put into something that might not get any results. And then, you know, the Corbyn project, you know, all those hours and hours and hours of time were put into something that was being undermined by people who were paid at the top. You know, all those tens of thousands of pounds of, you know, money that was supposed to be spent fighting for working class people, diverted to drop seats by people who were employed by that very party. You know, they were celebrating our losses. And, you know, so for me, the Labour Party has just felt like a fly sticker for, you know, left-wing energy. And the amount of meetings that you go to and you come up with what is a good idea objectively because someone else, you know, it gets carried by someone else a year later. You're getting told that it's a bad idea constantly. You know, they don't want your ideas because they've already decided what they're going to do in a little meeting that you weren't invited to. You know, that's if that's how they treat, you know, their enthusiastic members, then we're never going to get anywhere. So I was like, well, do I really want to join another political party? Is this, you know, and I'm still not sure that I'm going to get proper into campaigning with them. But there is a couple of promising things. They want to really make community activism and mutual aid a big part of their campaigning and education, which I think is a fantastic thing, because, you know, all that time that we spend as party activists knocking on doors, especially in Labour, because you end up knocking on ex-Labour voters' doors and not the people who perhaps don't vote. You know, the amount of time that I spent in middle-class people's driveways, you know, trying to talk to really angry UKIPers instead of, you know, being down the road with the people, you know, in the poorer housing who maybe weren't on the electoral register. That's where we should have been with the policies that we had. You know, why weren't we? And even better, you know, if you can do something concrete for those communities as part of your campaigning, and then, you know, at least if you don't win, you've improved their lives in a way, you know, and just having the freedom. I know we've probably thought similarly, all of us, but, you know, you bring those ideas to the MP and they don't want to, they're not interested. Well, the last time I went in Labour, I'm like, why aren't we out canvassing on Sherburn Road? And, oh, I don't want to spend my weekends there. It's classist. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's looking kind of hopeful, but I'm still not sure that electoral politics is the way to do it. And I think we should still be fomenting the revolution altogether.
James, James, are we going to find some agreement there?
No. Of course, to be honest, I'm in agreement with a lot of what Lauren's saying. I am. It's just all I can see coming from this at the moment. It's not what's coming in 5 years or or 10 years' time. At the moment, all I see it is impacting the working class in a negative fashion as a result, just in the short term, that is. That's the way I'm looking at it. Within the next 4 to 8 years, it's going to be negative until we get over the boundary of either, I don't know, NIP working together with Labour on particular issues locally. Say if you have loads of local county councillors, I would prefer to align myself with NIP than I would with any of the independents who are more fascists around here, to be honest. So in that terms, yes. I just wrote down a couple of things when Lauren was talking there relating to political education. I think that's a big problem within the Labour Party, and I think this is what I was referencing before when I said people got duped by Starmer, is because even within the Labour Party and within the Labour left at the moment, there was a lot of missing education, so they could see through that facade what was put in front of them. So that just because somebody's sitting spouting off what they want to hear, stuff like just basic pledges like UBI, all of that type of stuff. Like, just because you're saying it doesn't mean that you're really going to be going for it. And that's kind of what happened with Starmer. And I just think political things like the political education project that we're involved in, and just general education, either within the Labour Party to put out to the public, rather than it being a niche little thing within the parties themselves. I think that's very critical. So there's that. And also you were on about when you went out like campaigning and you were like, oh, why are we not going down to this estate, or we're not going down that estate? I've heard sort of the same thing. And it is electoral politics, as you say. It's all based on statistics of who's registered to vote and who votes, who doesn't in particular areas. So they try to focus on them more than the others. We've kind of tried to flip that on its head locally, that is, within the Labour Party. So and we're pushing out to come on, register to vote, and then trying to engage in that way, that type of thing. We're going up there and just walking around the streets, lip picking, and then we're talking to them that way. I register to vote, all this type of thing. So I think that was that them 2 points are definitely something that has been missing within the movement for sure. And I can understand how you're disgruntled about it. It's just coming up with solutions. And like you say, nobody was coming up with the solutions. But we have been personally, locally. I just understand from your perspective, Anna. Are you living in Hartlepool, right? So, yeah, I know Hartlepool CLP quite well. And I was at all the funding events and, during the election. And to be honest, I can completely understand why that was the case. The problem being, I've noticed people get disgruntled when they come up the face like that. They then become disengaged with the politics, disengaged with the party, because you're getting pushed back. But it's more relating and like the solutions to it. Were you organising with other lefties in your Labour Party? Did you actually go to ask your CLP secretary, for example, and say, is there any chance you can put out this email to all of the members saying that, well, we just want to meet up, that type of thing, and just try to get a judgment of who's who and who's in your local CLP. I think that helped me a lot. But like I said, I've been very, very fortunate to have a left-wing MP and a really good one at that, and a very good CLP who will raise their members' voices.
Speaking of like that getting together attitude, you can become a member of Socialist Think Tank. It is free. You can contribute if you want, and that would be a completely extra political thing. We welcome socialists of any party. So if you're in the Labour Party and fighting for socialism, if you're in the Green Party, if you're in the Northern Independence Party, you can become a member of Socialist Think Tank and join the discussion with us there and try and work outside of the political system as well, which is a really positive thing. So do that. Maybe someone will drop the link into the chat to do that, I want to
We're
bring
looking
in.
at you, Rochelle, wherever you are.
Hey, we've got mods now. Yeah,
Yeah, we've got
Oh, we do.
all the
Yeah,
mod
of
cons.
course.
That's a terrible pun, isn't it? So a couple of things from Ray. So I know Ray Goodspeed, veteran of I shouldn't have said veteran, should I? Just we'll say legend of lesbians and gay support the miners, has said, if we want revolutionary change with or without Westminster, we need maximum workers' unity between Hartlepool and Stoke, Bristol, Grimsby, Birmingham, or even East London. And he's also said, we can discuss our attitude to Labour fine. So we've focused a lot on Labour, haven't we? Which is sort of a problem with the Northern Independence Party. And he says, but the idea of Northern Independence is flawed and will only strengthen the right. It's like the love child of the SNP and UKIP. I'm going to put on something. I've just put up a little tweet last night from the leader, I guess, the nominal leader of the Northern Independence Party, Philip Proudfoot. And the panel can't see this, but this happened last night, and I got so confused. So I'm going to talk about the independence part of it. And he said, these two messages from one of my best mates is perhaps the most British response to the Northern Independence Party I've had. So impressive, Pip. I feel very proud of you. A bit soppy, sorry, but it's amazing what you've done. And I replied, do Socialist think tanks... to Socialist think tank's Twitter, does the Northern Independence Party identify as British? And that is a genuine question. I think that I understand the idea of nationalism being acceptable only from the point of anti-imperialism. We've got basically a nationalist party here who want to make Northumbria a nation. If the people within that are identifying as British, with all that entails, and you can be proud to be British if you want, that's entirely up to you. But as someone who, I'll just tell a little story that I told a couple of the members last night in the chat. Growing up as a child of a Northern Irish Catholic, I've had people singing to me in corridors, all of them singing to me, "No surrender to the IRA." I've been treated differently. I'm not British and I'm not English because I'm the son of a Northern Irish Catholic, and it makes you think. Well, you look at the Irish, what happened in Ireland. It was imperialism in Ireland, and that's why I support a United Ireland, because it's an anti-imperialist movement. And that's why when you look at things and I know me and Lauren are both reading the Jakarta Method at the moment, and they talk about things the only acceptable form of imperialism really of nationalism is anti-imperialism. Are the Northern Independence Party anti-imperialist if they're sort of fawning over the idea of being British as well? That absolutely baffled me. That's okay. If you want to be really pro-British and say, oh yeah, stiff upper lip, that kind of thing, which he didn't say, but he thought that British spirit kind of... What is the independence bit about? That's what I don't understand. The democratic socialism, fine. Absolutely fine. The fact that the South gets more than the North, fine. But a lot of what the South gets better than the North is a public transport system so that the working class of the South can go and service the needs of the rich people in London. There's so many working class people in London. So what in the world is going on there? Are they supporting imperialism? Have they thought about this as a class struggle? That's where I have a massive problem with the Northern Independence Party. I was going to bring Laura in, but she's become a name, probably trying to look after Penny. So, Lauren.
Yeah. So I think that tweet probably doesn't need to be taken too seriously, I would say. It's kind of when they say there's a British stereotype of people.
Yeah, that's kind of fine. But coming from where I always come is a bit I don't know. I don't know whether that would have entered my head to start to do that if I was the leader of an independence party.
And I don't think I really agree with the point that about Britishness. So, for instance, Scandinavian countries, it's a region, right? So just because, Sweden and Denmark, they're completely separate countries, separate affairs, separate governments, but you're still Scandinavian if you're from that region because they share a lot of culture and, geographically it makes sense. So I think that's just a simple way. I don't think it's evidence of imperialism. And in fact, I think you could argue that, Westminster is kind of an occupying the north of England because we've not voted for Tory governments, a lot of the years that they've been in power, similar to Scotland. And yet, we are the ones who are at the sharp end of their awful, destructive policies every single time. So I would say that we've got an argument about, that anti-imperialist idea of, having our own nation and having control of our own affairs. I saw an interesting stat that the regional inequality in this country is similar to a country just after Civil War. And, you see it when you travel up and down, but, seeing the numbers, it's so stark. And, that railway, the figures about the amount of money that's spent per head on public transport down in London versus up in the northeast. Down in London, it's over £2,000 a head. Up here, it's like £5 a head. And they wonder why his economy's struggling, and they wonder why there aren't many jobs. So I would argue that the way that we are systematically held back. And also, culturally, I've been at a uni with, a lot of southern middle class people. And, having travelled down to the south, we are looked down upon by a lot of people, a lot of the people in government, no matter what your class is, because, I were considered to have, my family weren't in poverty growing up. We were, lucky financially compared to the rest of my friends from Barnsley. But still, people kind of act classist towards me despite not really knowing my economic background just because of my northern accent. So
there's that I get that, and I've had that. Remember me and Laura a couple of years ago went to see Rachel Paris in London because we thought she was kind of funny on the MASH report, and the crowd that went to see her was so like, ha ha, stupid northerners voting for Brexit, ha ha ha, properly looking down the nose at us. Completely get that, but there'll also be working class people in London who could have don't want to make this about Brexit at all because it's not necessarily it's not really about that. But there's working class people in London who don't look down the noses at us as well, and there's all sorts of different communities there. And I don't know, say I get this from the point of view of, do you know when Scotland wanted to. When they had the referendum, I was like, where do I stand on this? And I want them to make their own decision. I'm really proud of them for wanting to make their own decision, and I get it. But my argument would have been if I'd have been in charge of the Labour Party there, I wouldn't have stood on the stage with David Cameron waving and going, "Oh, we're all better together." I would have said, "Don't you dare leave us! Don't leave us on this island with a bunch of Tories. Don't do it. We love you, Scotland. Be with us." Let's unify, and I think that's where I come from. I don't necessarily want us to break apart. I want socialists of these islands to come together. That's maybe where I am. Laura, do you want to come back, Lauren? Too?
Yeah, so, of course there are working class people in the south that would benefit from these policies, but does that mean that we shouldn't give it a try, if Scotland can get independence and can, alleviate poverty, for their people, I'd move there, number one. Number two, it doesn't mean that we can't still support international socialism. In fact, I would argue that we would be in a better position to support international socialism because we'd have power, we'd have resources, we'd be able to put political pressure, on these neighbouring countries while, enacting all these wonderful policies and showing an example of what socialism can achieve for the people here.
Yeah. Laura?
I think my stance on this particular topic would have to be that now I might be living in an entirely, fabricated dream world here, but I'm an internationalist and I'd like to see all the socialists of the world unite. And I think creating more pockets of different areas that have different rules and different ideals, and I'm all for people celebrating their heritage. Like, I'm a northerner and I'm happily a northerner and I'm proud of it, but I do also identify as a human being on this earth, and I just don't want to create more division with that, and I think I can see the reasons for this party. I can, and I understand everything Lauren's saying, and there are loads of positives. I don't think we have it in us to change the two-party system we're in. I think that's it. We've got one or the other. I think I would like us to. I really would, because neither party is offering me what I stand for at the minute. Now I am staunch in my knowledge that the Tory party will never nor has ever offered me anything that I believe in. The Labour Party has recently, it feels like you can't even say Jeremy Corbyn's name now without somebody rolling their eyes and going, "Oh, that fella."
Yeah.
But it wasn't him as such. I think he's brilliant, and I love what he's doing with his project now. It's great, and something I really want to get behind, and hopefully we can get behind as well as Socialist think tank. But it was the policies and the ideas, the ethos, the empathy, everything that came with that was something that politics has sorely missed for decades, and we need that back. And I don't know how we get that back, because we've seen that our society simply won't accept it. They just won't. Too many rich people owning too many influential outlets like media, and people go, "Oh well, people don't believe everything they read." The past 10 years have proven that they do. They just do. And so I think where I would go with it would be to move outside of the political spectrum, do things like the political education project, learn about our histories, because for a lot of people this is their first rodeo. This is the first time they've seen this happen. This is not the first time this has happened. This happens every few years. Historically, there are splits, there are arguments, and I guess this is where the whole "you need to stay and fight" thing comes from, because like John said in his show previous to this one, look at the likes of Dennis Skinner and all the fights he's been involved in. And he's staunch socialist. And it doesn't mean that it fixes everything, but we have to keep trying. And I just don't know if joining NIP or pushing that is the right tool to do that with. I'm not against the Northern Independence Party. I'd be interested to learn more, but I just think all of our efforts need to be collective. If the working class came together, and even people who just most of my family are just like, "Oh, I'm not into politics." Politics is into you. Trust me, it bleeds you for every single piece of you. If we could just educate people on that and get everyone together and do a huge movement, that would change things. That's the problem, how we do that. And I guess that's kind of what we're doing on Socialist Think Tank, or at least trying to just be normal people, giving normal messages of socialism and why it's important. And if we can get more people doing that, I think that sort of movement is the way to go. I've probably gone off on about 10 different tangents there. I'm sorry.
See,
but
you often think that you haven't hit the fan notes, Laura, but there's lots of love for you out there.
Okay.
Lots of praise for you out there. So I'll start with one that isn't praise, but
Okay, thanks.
It's not negative either. But Jimmy Hodgo said, "Division already exists. Look at the North-South divide," and that really is a true.
It does, yeah.
That is as true as anything. And I think we all agree with that. Chris Hood, just give you a round of applause there, which is really nice. Cat Cray, who created the North-South divide, I mean the economic one, because it wasn't us, you know, like it wasn't the working class, I think she means there with us. Ray's definitely pushing the idea that we need to be united, and what you were talking about there, Laura, about like, you know, us being together as a working class. Like wherever we are, we've got to be together. But I'm going to come to that in a second because I've got a question about that. Jane's talking about the newspapers, which it's me has peddled incessantly on light entertainment shows. Like, it is bleak, isn't it? It is bleak if you watch any sort of light entertainment show, any sort of left-wing values. And again, like the Jakarta method, go and read it. Please go and read that one, because everyone, whether left, right, centre, needs to read that and go, hang on. It's like that, like that meme where it's like, were we the baddies? Do you know that one? Me and Mantri is with you in internationalism, Laura, as well. And Mark, we need to demonstrate socialism locally and celebrate our successes. I like the Preston model. Yeah, great.
Model, yeah.
Craig, when people parrot verbatim the media what the media produces, they definitely believe what they see and read, and that's true. Bit of agreement with Ray from Leanne.
Can I just say there though on that? I'm not, when I say that, when I go, oh, people just believe what's given to them, I'm not meaning to be critical or calling the British public stupid. They've created the system for us by putting us on our knees. Mm-hmm. So we haven't got time to sit and read journals and history books and all of this. We just, if it's the news, you take it, because that's your... You know, you sit down after a long day at work, the news is on, you listen to it. That's where you get your information. That's where the majority of people get their information from. So it's not a lack of education. It's not, I suppose it is a lack of education, but it's not a lack of, you know, being clever or having a clue. It's just that this is what is given. This is pushed at people, especially working class people who don't have time to question it. You've got to accept it, haven't you? You're too busy to go and do all this research and get heavily involved in politics like we have, you know. So it's certainly not a criticism of the public.
And yeah, and the full circle thing is what I said earlier on about, like, when you're if you've got a bit more space, a bit more money, you can get more involved in politics, which is another reason why we produced the podcasts for the Political Education Project, because who has time to do that kind of thing? Who has time to sit down and read theories and all that stuff, or even understand them? And I think it's quite important to let people know that when you're learning that stuff, you don't understand it either, and you're like, you are. Yeah, one day I think I'll release the outtakes of me reading that Hal Draper piece when I was like, why? Yeah. Why would anyone write like this? This is not. It's not written to be spoken. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like, poor Laura's editing it, and then what was the thing the other day that Michael came to? It was a word, and it was it began with Q.
Oh God!
He's just saying, you are what? What? I'm editing it. It's like, what? And it's dead funny. And sometimes we speak up here, and all we need to do, like, if we spoke there, everyone would get it, and they would find out that socialism's like pretty good and pretty nice. And James, we haven't heard from you in a bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, you haven't heard me. You haven't brought me on the topic of independence yet. So
go for it. Go for it.
I just want to first address Chris Hood. Because I said that I would, and he asked me a question in the chat. So when I referenced I would prefer to stand with NIP as in a county or a parish level rather than an independent, because I mentioned the word some of them are fascists. I genuinely don't mean all independents are fascists at all. I mean, I have seen instances of it locally, and I mean particularly that within the Easington constituency, and that is, I'm just going to say the villages, Merton and Seaham. There is two instances where I've genuinely seen independents where they have fascist beliefs, and they were on the inch of getting seats. And it was just on the basis of a very similar thing. It's a community party, for example, or it's and I know personally Chris is within is classed as an independent or is in a community party, if I'm not mistaken, in Haswell, if I remember the name correctly. It is nothing against you, Chris, at all. I've seen the work that you do. I've seen that you've come on the Make a Difference groups, for example. You're on the Have You Say pages. You're out picking and doing stuff like that. Like you are embedded within your community. When I'm talking about these independents who are fascists, all they're doing is sitting on the internet. They're slating people for their gender. They're attacking at you at any opportunity for any divisive topic, let's say. It's all instigating. It's not genuinely wanted to better the lives of the working class. And that's what I meant by the fascism side, where they genuinely hate people who are gay. They genuinely hate people of a different race, that type of thing. I don't mean to classify all independents as that. I just want to clarify. So that out the way.
He's like that, James, by the way. He's appreciated that. So
yeah, no, definitely. Because I know Chris is a very big advocate for the working class as an independent, but I might be mistaken. He could be in a community party, but I don't know. But yeah, so the in regards to independence in the working class struggle in general, there was a couple of questions of. I lived in Scotland at that moment in time of the referendum. I knew all of the inside debates, every single divisive topic. I was into it when I worked at. Sorry, I don't want to mention where I worked at just in case. But I worked in a big company in Glasgow, and I was literally throughout this whole of these debates with people, and a lot of them, and one of them that did come up is financial independence, and. My question would be, how can you get financial independence away from the South? Because I understand, I'm not specifically asking Lauren here, I'm asking everybody in the chat, because I've seen a couple of people and now have come out that the members and they're speaking in the chat now, that type of thing. And I would just like to ask, how is that possible in their eyes? What's NIP's plan? Has it been solidified yet? I doubt, because it's only been 5-6 months that the party's existed, so... Are we going to move towards would NIP advocate total independence of currency? Would we be at the British pound? Can't stay in the British pound if we couldn't become independent. It's the same thing Scotland went through. You would have to reply. There'll be a whole process. There is in that type of thing. Would we then apply to go to the EU? Because the EU is not a socialist bloc. It's a capitalist bloc and always will be a capitalist bloc. And then there was the other thing in regards to the unity of trying to gain power away from the South in general, basically London, in the city of London, let's say. It's not London, it's the city of London. That's the issue. So if we're trying to gain control away from that, how can you bring that wealth with us? I don't see us creating the wealth that they were... Let's call it the trickle-down economy. That's the way they classified it at the time, right? How can you gain control away from the city of London? That's the issue with currency. And then what are the alternatives? Would you go to the EU? Would we have our own version of the pound, for example? Would it be a new currency? Would we go to something like Bitcoin, some sort of encrypted currency? If it was me, if I was in NIP and I had all of these options, right, I would completely turn the political system on its head. Stuff all of that, what we've had previously. I want to be coming up with new, innovative ideas, something modern, something similar, let's say, to it's Eastern European country where the majority of the citizenship is based online, if I'm not mistaken. And then it's gone completely out of my head now.
Lauren's nodding. Do you know Lauren?
It's an Eastern European country. I forgot the name. It's not Croatia. Anyway, there's an Eastern European country. It's one of the 3 Baltics, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, maybe someone in the chat will help us out.
Somebody in the chat might know. But their whole system is based online, their whole membership. You can literally apply to be a citizen by going online and applying to be a citizen. And there is just the strategies. I'm not seeing this innovativeness. I'm just seeing an established message and an establishment structure still perpetrating out of the party. And if it was me, and if I was going to be an independent state, a brand new one, I would really want to turn things upside down and be innovative. I don't want a replication of what we've already got, because it's not working.
Someone suggested Estonia, is that right?
Estonia, thank you very much. Yes, it is Estonia. Yep. It's one of the three. Is it the three Baltics?
Yeah.
The three?
One of thank you very much for that, by the way.
Yeah, it is Estonia. I would look it up as well. Just
what is it like? So is it like direct democracy using phones, or is it to do with currency? I don't understand.
Oh no, like the whole government structures are based online. Everything is everything's transferred to a technology structure into software, some sort of platform, some sort of like logic, because everything is logic based, right? We even have, or even within the parliament, all of the legislation that is created, etc. Everything can be programmed. All of it could be programmed. Every single instance of it, because it literally reads as if you were writing code in terms of software development. And Estonia basically picked up on that, and they've written a hell of a lot of stuff in terms of software to transfer all government structures into software-based structures.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting stuff there. It kind of brings me to another question here. So, right, so far we've seen absolutely brilliant Twitter game. I want to move. Actually, I want to do this, and then I want to move to what's caused the idea of the Northern Independence Party, because Northern Independence Party and Labour seem very linked in people's minds. But I want to come to that after. So, we've seen this structure. Now, I often say, if you wanted to start something from scratch, would you come up with capitalism? I think the answer to that is no. You would not come up with capitalism. You'd not come up with a system where, like, you've got, like, well, you know, if you've already got money, then that means you will always be able to earn money and you will be fine. And if you don't, then you could work every day of your life and still end up incredibly poor. You know, the system will not work for you. So you wouldn't come up with that, would you? Now, political parties are all a mirror of one another. And one of my massive frustrations within the Labour Party is, why do the Labour Party operate exactly the same as every other political party? Because the structures are terrible, you know, and everyone seems to do the same thing. Within the trade union movement, there's so much focus on protocol rather than actually getting things done. And you're like, oh, hang on, no, you can't do that because Standing Order 1C wasn't met in that occasion. Yeah, well, it was a good idea, so let's just do it. And often you get bogged down in this ridiculous system. Are the Northern Independence Party going to do things in a different way, as you've described, James? Because you've gone into a lot more detail there, and a lot, like, you've gone galaxy brain on this one. Let's go back to human brain. Are they structured in a different way? Are they doing something different? Are we going to be able to get involved in a different way if you're a member of that?
I don't think at the moment that's what Estonia has done, but I think voting is done a bit online. I can't remember the exact specific, the way it's still a capitalist country. If that's what you're at, there's still
I'm just basically saying, like, is the way the Northern Independence Party, because I don't know the answer to this question, and maybe someone in the chat does. Is the Northern Independence Party going to structure itself differently, or are they going to, like, door knock? Are they going to leaflet? I know it's COVID times, but are they just going to be like, hi, let's collect your data? And then, like, oh, you voted for us last time, tick. Are they going to do something entirely different? Is it going to be entirely more exciting? Is it going to be dynamic? You know, because I know the Twitter game's really good, but lots of people's Twitter game's really good. Lauren, it's probably for you, this one.
I went, like, literally, this is why I joined, to find out more about this kind of thing, because I thought, you know, is this going to be a group of, you know, men who have decided what the North will be for themselves and have decided what this whole, you know, internal party mechanism is going to look like? And, you know, it's kind of a bit of an ego-based thing, because it could have been that, right? So I joined and I went to a social, and what I found was, so Phil Proudfoot, I think he's really, really genuine, good socialist, good ideas, and he's completely overwhelmed that this thing has taken off. So, like, he had kind of like an exhilarated kind of adrenaline, and he's sharing stuff like, that it's all a bit, it's all been really overwhelming for him. So I asked, what are the democratic mechanisms like in this party? I need to know what they are. And he said, well, we're still making them. So do you want to join this policy making group? And within like 5 minutes, I was in a policy making group, so I can like chat about it and help them like form it. So I know that the draft manifesto for this election was leaked to the Huffington Post. So it's going to be in there, and everything is still being debated and discussed by members. So it's quite an empowering space for people who are quite, new to politics to be. What a good way to, get political education. Do you know what I mean? To actually be engaged in, building what the constitution is going to be. So in terms of door knocking, they're going to door knock everyone. I think they're going to go to the poorest areas first. Is the shtick, from what I've been hearing. But also in terms of economics, when you're talking about financial independence, they've got 7 bullet points on their like national manifesto for the economy, and it talks about green industrial rebirth, massive investment in green jobs to tackle climate change, national minimum wage being the same for everyone, and being matched to raise increases in the cost of living, so it would be like the real living wage for everyone. Closing the gender and race pay gap, creating true equality for everyone in a free north. But nothing about financial independence. In fact, I think it says the real living wage will be in pounds. So not there yet. But I feel like everything's probably moving too quickly at the minute. They've not had a conference. They've not decided how policies are going to be made properly. Do you know what I mean? It's such a new party, but I'm sure they're having all these ideas. I were in an interesting discussion about how policies were going to be made, and it were really democratic. They were looking at all different kinds of ideas. So, like, how would democracy work if Northumbria became a country? And they were talking about citizens' assemblies, like creating governments by jury, different forms of direct democracy. The people who were talking about proportional representation were the ones who were thinking the least imaginatively out of everyone, So I was pleasantly surprised when I joined for a nosy at, how radical and how imaginatively people were thinking. Because if you're coming from the Labour Party, you're not used to really being tasked with thinking imaginatively. You used, if you get chosen to go and be a delegate at conference, even if you do get to decide on a radical policy, it's not necessarily going to get taken up. We've seen Starmer go back on the conference, decisions quite a few times since he's been in power. So yeah, so far so good from my perspective.
I think that's really good, like getting to have that feedback, especially knowing that you're able to get involved and your voice is listened to when you're being asked for innovative ideas rather than you coming up with them and approaching the party with them. It's a complete, I get that. I completely get that. It's just I've had the opposite feeling locally. That's where my focus has really been. I can understand from a national perspective. That's definitely removed from the members, I've noticed, unless you're really going after it to get into these policy forums, to get into the conference, conference and stuff like that. Unless you're really gunning for it, you're not going to get there. Where it feels like you've been invited into it, but that's just because it's a new party and they want more ideas. They're opening up.
Yeah, so like my experience in the Green Party, so like I joined the Green Party in 2014, it was the first political party. Similar to, I'm seeing people who were me in 2014 joining the Greens, joining the Northern Independence Party now. It's the exact same thing. So new to politics, they've read a little bit and, bam, they're there. They're being asked what their opinions are on policy. They don't necessarily know what any of these things mean, but they're looking it up because, they've been put in a position of responsibility and, they've been shown that their opinion matters. And if I'd have gone straight from, being, apolitical, if the Labour Party had been my first port of call politically, I might have left and never come back, to be honest.
Yeah.
My ideas were treated like an inconvenience when I joined this party, and I was shocked. I was 20-year-old and I got asked if I wanted to set up the Green Party branch in Barnsley before the 2015 election, and I was at conference voting on policies and taking part in all those debates, from joining the party and the Greens. And we discussed policy because we were all going to be there voting on it together, and it were important. It's the most important thing, and that's how I think it should be. And it's a shame that it's not been like that in the Labour Party. So I'm really glad for these people just getting involved in politics, in the Northern Independence Party, because it's the best way to learn is being empowered.
Will so there's a lot of talk in there about targeting marginals, etc. I know Philip Proudfoot himself, he's talked about standing in Sedgefield. Would it not have been wiser to kind of talk to people in Sedgefield?
First, yeah, like people like us, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that the Labour Party has one of the most left-wing CLPs at the moment in the country, right? Yeah.
So given that we kind of did the battle, and you visited, Lauren, as a guest speaker at Sedgefield, like we did have one person who thought you were in the employ of capitalism because you were doing because it was for Extinction Rebellion, because they thought you were getting paid, and you were like, oh no, I'm literally getting nothing. I'm not even getting my bus fare. But like Sedgefield has come a long way from being the home of Tony Blair to being a socialist CLP. I don't know, maybe there's like naivety in there, maybe there's like, maybe discussions need to be had. Like, if you look at Hartlepool, I can understand why someone would be really annoyed with the selection process there, and with the fact that it was a parachuted in candidate. Even though he's local, parachuted in, there was no choice given there. I can understand massive frustrations. Now, if Labour then go in Sedgefield and are allowed to select a socialist parliamentary candidate, will they go for the symbolism of Sedgefield? And will they just say, actually, we want to stand here anyway because of the symbolism of it, because it used to be Tony Blair? Or are they going to say, well, actually, what matters to us is democratic socialism? Or is the more important thing raising the profile? Or is the more important thing independence? It's a difficult question to ask someone who's just joined the party.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's particularly disagreeing with the democratic socialism.
That'll be a tough call, especially if you get someone left-wing. But the thing is, you're a really good left-wing CLP, but did you get to choose your candidate last time? There's no promise. In fact, if it's following the pattern of what's happened elsewhere in the country, you'll not get to choose your MP. You will get someone who you don't know put in because, we've got an establishment leader who wants an establishment candidate. Is that... I think there's a lot of have you ever heard of the sunk cost fallacy?
No, but tell us, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we learned about it in psychology, and it's like it looks into gambling addiction. So it's this idea that if you put so much into something, then you've put so much into it that you better keep putting into it because it's going to pay off at some point. And when I hear people say, you've got to stick in and fight, all I can see is just flashing before my eyes all those hours and hours and hours and hours of that person's time, spirit, strength, energy being put into something. And, has it been worth it? Is it really worth it? Or, with what we know about how rotten the party structures are and how people at the top are bought out, is it a waste of time?
Okay, so that brings me to the final question, which is basically, how did we get here from having this hopeful message in 2017 to being completely on the back foot from the establishment in 2019? Laura, so with everything that's happened, how have we got here? It seems like the Northern Independence Party are really tied in with the Labour Party in people's heads, whether that's members have dabbled with being in the Labour Party or maybe have been expelled from the Labour Party or have become politically homeless, they feel, from the current direction of the Labour leader. So
I think what we need to realise is that this isn't a change that's happened in the Labour Party since 2017 or 2019. You know, it is a structure of the Labour Party that has let us down for decades. The people who were around for Tony Blair's tenure are still there. The people who are working within the party had been working against socialism. I can't go into the reasons why they would do that because I'm not these people. It seems to be a culture of nastiness. We need to get these people out because they're going to cause problems. I mean, I was in the party for like a year and I had a story written about me in the Daily Mail about how I was a bully and a thug. Just like...
Oh, she bullies me every day in chat now.
You shut up, you.
All the time.
Bully him with flowers.
Rob sat there typing for like 4 hours and she's like, are you done yet? Are you done yet?
That was let's just name the
joke.
person who was let's name the person who put that story in the Daily Mail as far as we're concerned, given that he was quoted and everyone denied that it was him. It was John Burton, Tony Blair's former agent, wrote in the Daily Mail, Russia Today, The Sun, and those were the times that you were a bully personally. Because you'd bullied out the former women's officer who had not even stood in the election because she was poorly, and you'd sent her some flowers as the first act of your being the woman's officer was to say, let's celebrate the previous woman's officer by sending her flowers. That's some nasty bullying, that.
I am just disgusting. I hold my hands up. I apologise
nasty.
So much. But so these things... These people are in this party still, and they're still running the show. Jeremy Corbyn's tenure was tackled from day one. It was never going to succeed, and yet it brought about so much change and so much inspiration. And I'm sort of the mind that the people from NIP kind of want to do the same thing. The problem is the structures. So Philip is obviously like brand new to it and didn't expect it to take off so fast, and I think given a few years could really make his policies and his structures a lot rounder. He's obviously started off really well by including members in the decision making process, which is huge, which is what the Labour Party should always be doing and claims to do. But clearly the stances that we agreed in the last two conferences they're not being done, so that's not happening. But I see a link between the two parties, what Labour Party should be and what NIP are trying to be. Neither one of them are quite there. What we need to do is get to where we want to be. Now, I don't know how we do that. I would like to see a return to some sort of trade union movement Labour Party, because essentially that's what we should be and should have always been. But it is funny when you learn the history of things, when you learn the history of the Labour Party, actually we've got a ton of socialist members, but actually the structures have always been socialist, but a Fabian socialist structure, which is somebody at the top who decides what is best for you and does it, which is no good. The members, working class people, just all people should be having a say, and I guess we're supposed to have our say by electing our representatives. But when our representatives then go to Westminster and vote against the stuff we've asked them to, it's a problem. And I think that's where this whole conversation has started. Nobody's speaking for us, and this has happened every couple of decades, forever. People get annoyed. No one's speaking for me. They're all the same. We've all heard it before. And that's where these fractures happen, because people look for somebody who will be speaking for them. regardless of whether it is fully formed or not, the Northern Independence Party are clearly speaking to people, and that's why they're going there, and that's why they're like, right, we need to grab hold of this, because he is someone with a working class voice who's gonna understand where I'm coming from. And I hope that is the case. And so far it does seem like that. But again, it is very fledgling, isn't it? I think it needs a few more years, and we'll see how it grows and how it establishes itself. But for right now, the socialists in the Labour Party need to come together. They need to realise we're not fighting each other, because there's the left, and then there's the left, and then there's the left. There's so many splits at the minute that it's just, the Tory Party are killing us. They're killing us, like quite literally murdering people, and we need to tackle that. That needs to be our goal, and we need to come together to do it. And I've said this all through this episode. I can't claim to know everything, but what I do know is working class people are the majority in this country, and if we all come together to tackle all the injustices, that says something. Boots on the ground, we have to tackle them in our numbers, and I think that's where our trade unions need to come in as well. The trade unions need to really run with this. There's a couple of them doing good jobs. There's a couple who are just sort of sitting back and, I guess, taking in the money, and it's not on. We need to fight in our numbers. It's the only way we're going to achieve anything.
I am now going to we've had some absolutely fantastic comments in the chat. Brilliant stuff, and people talking about the differences, and I think that's probably a really good way of how we've got here. I think the biggest problem that people have with the Northern Independence Party is the independence bid, especially people from the south saying like getting into independence, what for? It seems like it's almost getting in the way of the message that they're going for a bit, and that seems to be the thing that people are talking about least, whether they want to be independent or not, or whether they just want to change things for the better for everyone. That's how I feel at the moment from the comments. Right, we are 2 members away from 100. I managed to achieve none when I did my earlier appeal, so someone's going to do better. Someone is going to become a member of Socialist Think Tank tonight. 2 people are going to do that, and
yes, please.
And 2 people are going to do that, and you're going to do appeals and stuff. I'm going to go for closing comments because 1, we've gone on for a pretty long time, but I haven't got bored yet, and it's been incredible hearing you. 2, I've got to write an email to all the SEA members before 12 o'clock, and 3, I've got a conference tomorrow and Stormzy's coming.
Yay!
I had Kate Green and Gavin Williamson today.
Cool.
What a treat!
Absolutely. Kate Green saying like she'd stood up to the government and stuff like that. I was like, well, how? Telling them that teachers have told you that they want to all go back to school, so you support the government. Anyway, Kate Green, really,
Paul,
really.
can I just answer one more thing?
Of course you can, and then go into your closing comments, James, straight after.
Okay. So it was just about we've talked a lot about national stuff, right? Northern national, but national as a whole we've basically caught up with. And we obviously have people within the chat that are very local to County Durham, right? And it's been pointed out by Chris that we really need to look within. It's not the Tories locally. It's not independents. It's not community parties that are really causing the problems. The reason these things exist is because they are disgruntled with the current Labour Party group within Durham. And like I said, it's been mentioned already that their establishment within the Labour Party is very Fabian. And that's the type of attitude I have personally seen within Durham County Council. I am not against every Labour Party member within the Durham County Council Labour group, but I can tell you a lot of them are on their way out and have left this current election, by the way. And there's a huge intake of actual left-wing socialists who are coming up and are standing for this election. And I would just like to point that out, that they were right-wing and they have messed up this. They're not messed up. They've dealt with a lot of cuts basically, and they made decisions that a lot of other people would not have made. They've made sacrifices in a way that a lot of other left-wing socialists would not have made. And I would just like to say, yeah, a lot of them are on their way out this year. They're not standing again. So if you go to the ballot box and look at the people who were standing last year in comparison to this year locally, just see if they're different. If they're different, then look them up, rather than just presuming they're just going to be the same Labour group who have control of Durham County Council next time round, because I can assure you there will be a huge intake of left-wing socialists this time round.
Thanks, James. I'm going to bring in Laura next, but I did notice something in the comments. Mark had mentioned he needs to research Fabian socialism more. Have a listen to our podcast, Hal Draper one.
Week
one of Political Education Project. That tells you a lot. So you can either read that because the link's in there, or you can listen to me say it and marvel at the editing job that Laura did. I think
not one bit of swearing left.
Not one bit of swearing left, no, but it was the majority swearing. Laura, I'm going to bring you in next. We have managed to get one new member to this point. Let's get the 100th member.
Okay, right.
Thank you very much, Chris.
I think my closing comment then needs to be, for starters, this has been a really interesting debate and discussion actually, and I started the show thinking I'm not going to have anything to say at all because I don't have anything against NIP yet because I don't know enough about them and I can say what I think about. But actually, it's been really interesting and informative and quite educational for me as well. So thank you so much, and I've loved seeing all the comments as well. They've been brilliant. On the back of what James just said, I totally agree. You know, the people we've got standing for council this time around are fantastic. But I don't want to diminish what the council have done. They do get a bad rep, and in some cases, rightly so. However, we discussed this last week on Political Unmuted. What we've got to take into account is our local council can only work with what they are given, and it is not much. And so you've got someone like, I think it was Nottinghamshire, who were like 20 million in debt. Durham County Council are not in debt because they have managed to not go into debt. They've spent
Prudent
money where they
finances,
thought was...
They call it, right? They call it prudent finances, yeah.
Well, we're not in debt, so we don't owe the Tories a ton of money. So that's good. There's obviously questions that need to be asked of where that money was spent, but I do believe they're doing the best they can with what they've got. And I do believe that the people we've got standing now, I'm lucky enough to know a lot of them personally, are proper socialists and really will try their best with the crap they are given from the Tory government. So yeah, do research them, like James said. Like, don't just take my word for it. Go and have a look. Also, I want to say thank you to Carl, Leanne and Jane, who are our new moderators, who have agreed to help us out. They were our members. This is what happens when you become a member. We managed to reel you in to do jobs for us. They've been lovely to agree to moderate some of the chat for us. They watch the shows anyway, so hopefully it's not going too much out of their way. And I just want to say a huge thank you to them. And please let me be the person who gets the 100th member. Somebody now watching this is not a member yet.
You've already done it. So we're now at member 100. Lauren.
Yes, get in.
Is member 100, and we've also got another Lloyd who's just admitted to or told us, admitted as if it's
admitted,
awful secret. Lloyd is member 101, so thank you very much, Lloyd, as well.
And because we are true socialists, it is free to join. We wouldn't charge money for people to join. However, what we would say is if you are in a position to be able to afford something, no matter how little, every penny literally does count. We do have some costs to keep running these shows for you, to get everything out and to make ourselves more visible. If you like the message we're sending in, you can give us a little bit. Every contribution is greatly appreciated and available through the membership or just through the contribution button on our website. Please do consider that. And we're just grateful to have you all. You know, we might be building slowly, but I do believe our content is important. I do believe what we're saying is relevant, and we just need to grow our audience and get more people involved. Like we've said all night, it's all about boots on the ground. So come on board and join us, and we'll be happy to have you.
It's also great to see subscribers. Zero Piraeus, I guess is the pronunciation there, is has subscribed as well, which is also important. Don't forget to like it. I'm going to give Lauren the final word as our guest and our person who is in the Northern Independence Party. I think we've been quite kind to everyone. I think every opinion has been listened to, and including in the chat. So, Lauren, finish us off, and then we'll play our little jingle to go out, and then the four of us will have a little chat where we explain how drunk we actually really are.
Yeah, and that's where we start to get nasty when the cameras are off.
We'll have a fight, won't we?
No, I'm kidding. So thank you so much. I know, that's it. We're going to have a fight. Northern Independence Party versus Labour Party. Gloves off. No, I think it's great that we can, like, as socialists, you know, we're in different parties, you know, get together and be critical about, you know, these ideas, because that is the only way that we're going to hold each other to account. And it's a shame that, you know, our criticality, what can I say? No, I'll not go down that route. I feel like the electoral system kind of, the only thing that you can do is critique. So there's someone holding absolute power, and then there's people criticising it from the outside and hoping it'll, you know, move a step towards what they want. But, you know, when we talk about our ideas as socialists, because we've got this, you know, shared value, you know, there's a hell of a lot that we agree on, you know, and the road to realising those hopes isn't clear, because, you know, the people in power have made it so difficult for us to find it, that I think unity is the most important thing in this. You know, we need to keep having these conversations, we need to keep using our radical imaginations, and we need to keep working together to fight for socialism in our communities, in, you know, whichever form that takes. And, you know, I still want to come and get out on the streets with you, doing political education and, you know, community work and mutual aid work as soon as possible, really. Do you mind, on that note, if I plug an Acorn thing?
Go for it.
Yeah. So Acorn are a community union, and we're just setting up in Durham. And the door knocking for that is great. So there's people from any party, it's, you know, not party affiliated whatsoever. But they're staunchly socialist, and they use direct action to improve communities, and particularly kick back at dodgy landlords. So door knocking's back on. It's been a long lockdown. So on Wednesday the 14th of April at 6 p.m, there's going to be an online door knocking training. And then on Sunday, the 18th of April at 1:30 p.m, we're going out in Gilesgate, and we're going to be going door to door to help people improve their living standards in their homes, and to get that sorted out, because housing is health. So, you know, we can all get together on issues like this and make concrete, you know, positive change for the people in our communities, no matter which political party we're in.
That's
amazing.
That's absolutely perfect. Laura, did you do did you already do your closing comment? You did.
I did. I got me 100th member. I'm out of here.
Yeah,
to my job.
So I just want to say that I think and I hope that we will continue to just be a member oriented in a viewer oriented platform. I hope that people like to see the comments coming up on the screen. That's what we try and do differently to other socialist media platforms, because, you know, or also subscribe to Lastcast on anything you can, by the way, because Lastcast is amazing. But we try and do something different. We try to make sure that that you are a part of the show. We'd be absolutely nothing without you. We'd be just sitting here, going like whistling and looking at our watches, waiting for some comments. So thank you so much for that. If you're listening on a podcast as well, because it goes out as an audio podcast, if you ever miss it, some people like that. Please do feel like you can get involved and subscribe. Just look for socialistthinktank.com and you will find us. And you will be able to subscribe, because I know we do have quite a few people who listen from 51 countries now, apparently. But I don't know if that's just James on his proxy.
No, right. It's not me. I don't really listen to the podcasts anymore, other than the political education ones. It's the only ones I really listen to on a podcast. Normally, I just watch them as they go out. But yeah, hit that up on a Sunday as well, by the way. Yeah. Political Education Project. Shout out to them.
Yeah, it's a week tomorrow, isn't it? A week tomorrow. And then there's more things. So there are things in development with the Political Education Project, and we're going to try and do some bridging units, really, to try and get people involved in that, because a lot of the reading is heavy, and obviously, like, we want to make sure that people get the heavy theory as well, and, like, you know, working class people aren't stupid, but at the same time they don't have a lot of time. So that's what we're into. If you're a member as well, there's a lovely WhatsApp chat you can get involved with. Everyone's really kind. You get to see some really funny things as well. So you know,
basically consists of what we're drinking. We will try to stop spamming it, but it's just so much fun. Please come and join in. Leanne's just said there, we're a family. As soon as you become a member, it's really lovely, and the people are all lovely, and it's just so inclusive. And come join us.
So easy to join. A little bit like Tarvu. Right. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Sadly, Rob is still typing, so we can't get any. But thanks Rob. Rob's our treasurer, and he does an amazing job, but he's so slow at typing, so bless him. And say bye, everyone.
Bye everyone.
Bye everyone. Thank you for having me. You're all amazing.
We keep the red flag flying here.